All right. Okay. So there are people who are entering. Perfect. Great. For those of you watching on Facebook, I'm streaming. I'm sorry, there's always a pause in the beginning. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I know that some of you can't listen. And I'm going to admit, can only listen but cannot jump on camera. I've been messaged about that. Hi, Brittany. Thank you for joining. You know what, since I've got you and I know that your time is limited and precious, I think I will start by asking you a couple of questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. About your experience in the program. So Laiba, I'm going to make you co-host for anybody who trickles in. I think our other case study might be joining a little bit later. So I'm going to watch my phone. Perfect. So today we're doing a MoMBA open house. I know that many of my MoMBA participants have joined last week. And I said, if you can join today, great. If not, that's okay too. They're super, super busy. But if you are joining us, so I will be interviewing participants. You've heard from Brittany probably in her experience in the program. And then I will also go through, I'll repeat a bit of what I did on Saturday's session. I'll show you step by step what is the journey, because for those who attended last week, you might feel like it's a lot of information, but in the program, we really break it down into very specific step by step, day by day, like how do I do this and implement this, right? It's not every single day, 1 hour of live stream. It's actually more digestible. So Brittany, let's start with you. Hi, Kathleen. Thank you for joining. Brittany, let's start with you. Tell us again about yourself, what you do, and then we'll get into how let's go back into those early steps where your mindset was, and what did you tell on Friday that you would never go back to? And that's a Kenya special 3 questions in one. Follow my brain.
Okay, remind me when I missed something here. I am Brittany Sutherland, a civil engineer at Altair Engineering in Edmonton, Alberta. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. I just came back from my second mat leave in December, and I just got promoted to a managerial position of my group here a couple weeks ago. What else did you have on that giant list of questions, Kenya?
So on Friday, you said something that you would never, hi Liz, that you would never do what? Go back to what?
Yeah, so on Friday, we had one of our pod meetings for some of our participants in the program, and we were just reflecting on mindset and changes and growth. And one of the comments that I made is that parenting is incredibly humbling, and it's hard. And it's hard now, but when I look back where my mindset was previously and the systems that I had in place, and how I was trying to go back from my first mat leave and trying to balance work and life and children to now, it's a huge difference, and I don't want to go back. I'm quite selfish from the perspective of we've made lots of improvements in life, and that is not to say that life is sunshine and rainbows, and I don't hate particular parts of my day, or I don't fight with my husband. That is not the case. But we've made progress, and it feels good to make progress. Yeah. I don't want to go back.
Excellent. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll talk with Brittany for a little bit. Wow, there's many of you trickling in. I shouldn't say I wasn't expecting it, but you never know what to expect after spending 8 days with me or Rodrigo, like day, 8, 9, 10, are people still going to be showing up, right? So I'm going to ask first Brittany a couple of questions, and then Liz also, I will ask you about your journey. But there are probably a few things on everyone's minds as if you're considering the program. When it comes to the structure, everything is really well documented online for the pillars. So I'll talk about it at the end. But the main things that are on people's minds is, can I afford the program and can I make time for it? And you're wondering, why am I not posting the pricing publicly? It's a choice I made very deliberately because I know what happens when moms become moms. Your revenue drops by up to 80%. You're sleep deprived, you're often anxious. It's not a place where you're making decisions from a place of like abundance and I can afford transformation. So what I do with every person who's considering the program, I ask you to apply, and there's a very intentional reflection on how you see the program will add value to your life versus me telling you what the program is going to be. Is you're going to be successful in the program if together we co-create your future state and you see how it's going to work for you. So Brittany, can we talk about that a little bit? You were a few years ago, you were making the decision about making the investment, and we thought, okay, this is your current state. This is where you could be. And then what is the cost of inaction? And you had to work yourself through, I have more limited funds right now. I'm going to say it is a few $1,000s. I'll mention the exact digits if you apply and you consider the value for you and what are the options. But it is a few $1,000s that any mom would be like, can I afford this? And Liz will talk about that with you as well, right? So what went through your mind we'll talk about the money part, and then we'll talk about the time part, because everybody in this program is very busy, right? It's not, nobody's got tons of extra time on their hands. So let's talk about the money mindset and the kind of abundance and scarcity approach to things.
Sure. So I was hesitant. The financial component was probably my biggest hesitation about joining the community. And that was frankly a hard thing to get past. And I would not say that I'm over the scarcity mindset from a financial perspective at all yet. I've made lots of improvement, but there's still lots of work to be done on that front. However, one of the shifts that I found quite powerful is probably don't have the right word of how to say that, this phrase, but like the choice to continue to do the same thing or to change the choice to not change something has an impact just as much as if you choose to do something or you choose to make a choice and a change. And that reality has really set home for me in the last couple of years. Life as a young mother with a blossoming career is incredibly demanding. And to say it is stagnant is hilariously naive. It is not the same. You do not get comfortable in any piece of your life. Like, it's go, go, go. And there's constantly new problems that you have to be solving. And so with that in mind, the choice for me to invest the funds to something like this is truly, now I look at it as an investment as opposed to a one-time expense. And that's something that it pays off in weird and wonderful ways that I frankly didn't expect and didn't think about before joining the program. I was hoping to join the program and get a back to work transition plan established and to feel a little bit more confident in work. But I was really focused on the tangible, this is my plan, this is my other plan, etc. And now when I think about things like this course or different areas of outsourcing, whether it be childcare or a cleaner or getting a handyman in around our house, there's a whole bunch of different ways that we outsource now. And that really I think about as a trade, because to me, there's a trade of time, there's a trade of mental energy and frankly, patience, depending on the skill that we're talking about doing. And then there's the actual money itself as well. And to me, what has been incredibly valuable is thinking about things like the effect that something has for me and what it translates to if I were to give something else up financially to be able to have it. So for example, one of the conversations that myself and my husband have been around our cleaner. And one of our conversations are like, how much do we like our cleaner? Like, it's money, it comes out of the bank, but like, what kind of stress reduction does it make us? Does it make it happier? Do we show up and we're able to actually focus on our kids because there aren't dishes everywhere? To us, it equates to we were big travelers pre-kids, and we've decided that if we need to cross off a family holiday and do a staycation at home, it is worth it if we have to trade those funds to maintain our cleaner. Because the amount of times that we come home and we are less stressful, like if we're just thinking about the energy that you would put into a family vacation, and if you translate how many times that impacts different weeks throughout the year, the conglomerate effect of us being less stressed and having a cleaner house is way more impactful to our overall well-being and health and joy on the year than a one-week family vacation. And so my mindset has shifted a little bit, and I hold that same mentality for things like this course, because the reality of the impact of the joy that it has on my family and the lack of stress, or frankly, just the ability to equip me to feel like I am confident and I can make decisions and I have plans and I am not overwhelmed, that is worth a lot of money. Let alone if you factor that into something like Brittany got a promotion. Attached to a promotion, yes, is more work, but it is also more money. So to me, I'm thinking more in terms of equating that differential in money and how that is a direct outcome to something like this course and the tools that it has equipped me with to do that.
100%. And like when you think about the compounding effect of that raise, and when we know that over 40% of moms leave full-time STEM after kids, what is the lifetime value of having the energy, the motivation to continue your career and not to drop out of it? I mean, you're all highly motivated, but you're all going to have moments in your career when you're wondering, like, can I do this, right? So what is the financial impact of dropping out of the workforce because it's just too tough? And it is tough. Like I was going to use expletives here, but it is tough. No matter how good your mindset is, there are days where you're really, really tested, right? So before I move to Liz, and I can ask, we have Kathleen on the call, Kirsten, Sarah, who are all in the program. Thank you so much for joining. If you could as well put in the chat, depending on time, I might ask all of you to pop on camera for a moment, is how did you walk yourself through the investment, and how was the experience of talking to me about where, you know, your current state to your future state and what actually the investment could return you, right, in compounding effect over time? If you could write that in the chat, I would really appreciate it. If your fingers allow, if your babies allow, if your lunches allow. So Brittany, before I go to Liz, we'll introduce Liz in a second. Can you tell us more about making the time? Because you have a very demanding schedule. I mean, construction is like go, go, go. Your inbox is piling up, right? And people on this call are wondering, like, how can I make time for this program? And I say, if you scroll at all on social media, and if you spend any time on Netflix, then you, and some of you may not, but like there's a high likelihood that you're sending some energy to some social media at some point, then you have time for this program. It's actually about redirecting your energy and changing your relationship to time and priorities. So, and Liz is nodding. So tell us how you've navigated doing this work, even though most of us feel like there's not enough time in a day on a regular mom day.
Sure, yeah. Oh, sorry, Brittany.
Yeah, and I'll go to you, Liz, after. Thank you.
Where to go?
I look at this a little bit differently, probably than some. Some would look at this as another thing to add to your schedule, and the reality is that it is. I have lots of people that I've talked to about the program, just being like, is this the right time in my life? And frankly, I think I asked you that, Kenia, in terms of like, I want to optimize when I'm going to do this work. And that is important. It is an investment. You want to know, make sure that you are serious and you're going to give it attention before you decide to make that purchase. That's smart financial sense. But the flip side about how I look at it now is that, like, this is very much a pivot point in life for me, in terms of having a young family, in terms of where I'm at in my career. And the reality is that optimization is not my goal anymore. I'm trying very hard to move past the perfectionist mindset, and it's not about optimization. It's about incremental change. And so for me, showing up and starting and doing something and having some incremental change to build on is better than nothing. And I have seen vast differences about my ability to participate depending on where I am in the program. So there are times where, like, the first 3 months of baby being born, you don't sleep much, can't think much. It's hard to do anything, including a program like this. The first couple months back from a mat leave, it's very, very hard. But the flip side of that is that it's a bloody hard time, but it's also the time that you need the most support and you need the most ability to hear other people going through your same circumstance. And it's the time where, frankly, sometimes it's the most valuable. Having the podcast to listen to while I was nursing my 1 to 3 month old in the middle of the night when no one else is awake at 3:30 in the morning and you want to feel engaged and you can't fall asleep nursing your baby again. It was incredibly helpful to be able to have stuff that was pre-recorded that I could listen to at my own pace. The nice part about the community I find too is that it's a buffet style, and that you take what you need at that point in life and you leave what you don't need at that point, which is really good and really helps to get away from my perfectionist tendencies, especially in the male dominated workforce where it's you show up, you do all, or you don't show up and you do nothing. That means more often than not that I would pull myself back, and I wouldn't choose to sit at specific tables, and I wouldn't choose to have some of that incremental change. And the reality is that limits you, because children are many years of your life. This is not like a short one and done thing. Like for me, it's been almost 5 years, because my pregnancies mean I was a train wreck. I was puking, I was blacking out on sites. Like, I don't do pregnant well. So for me, this has been almost 5 years of kids. And if you take that hit out of your career, it's really, really hard. And that, like you said, Kenya, adds up. So having the support at the crucial time, even though it's another check thing on the list of things to do, it's also the time for me when I needed that help the most. And being able to show up and ask the questions about what you need help with is incredibly valuable. To have the group support for that, because it's not like you just sit in a webinar and you listen to somebody else ramble at you about something that may or may not pertain to your current circumstance. And you're like, that's great, but I need to go deal with this other thing that's on fire, and I have no clue how to deal with that. The reality is that how the calls are structured is that there's time to learn about the thing in the webinar, and you can read and get more information however you want from the portal if you're ready to think and challenge yourself. The reality is that there's other moms on the call. So if you have something else that's burning on fire, everyone's going to listen and everyone's going to help according to what you actually need at that point in life, whether or not pertains to the topic of the day. Sorry, bit of a diatribe.
Totally okay. It gives you an idea of what kind of mindset people have in the program and how these are truly very, very busy individuals. To give you an overview of how the program works, there are weekly calls. You can choose between a midday slot, generally around lunch, or evening after the kids are in bed. The calls are less than an hour. Sometimes we overflow when we have a lot of discussion. There's parts where I do talking, there's breakout rooms, there are guest speakers, right? So there's teaching, there's discussion, and then there's accountability where we track. So that's once a week. Most of the calls are recorded, so you can catch up on them. Some aren't for privacy reasons, so we can discuss like the more delicate things, right? Where you don't want that exposure. There's content in the app every day that's aligned with the topic of the month. We go through one pillar every month, from mindset to relationships to finances to health to career life balance. So you have an app, and when you're on the go, whether you're nursing baby, you're at the checkout line, you're in the bathroom, or you're driving or on a walk, you can take in the content. And then there's your vision and values board that's designed in module 1, which is your visual point of reference for the whole program, where you're constantly like imbibing your future. So you have those reminders everywhere. We also have a group chat that if you have a problem, you just put it in, or if you want to celebrate something, and people are there for you as well. So that's the general structure. And then you get some one-on-one time with me where I guide you and we develop your roadmap in the program, right? And what specifically you're going to focus on, in which sequence, when you're actually going to implement the program. And if you need that extra push to find blocks, then we'll work on it with you and we'll see like, how do we set the time for you to make it happen? So thank you so much, Liz. Let's get over to you. Thank you for your time, Brittany. I really appreciate it. You're just starting a new position and you're hopping in for this. Liz, you also started a new position recently. And so tell us about yourself and your family size, and then we'll get into your decision-making to get into the program.
Sure. So hi, jumped the gun a bit there. Sorry, Brittany. My name is Liz. I have 3 kids. I have a 2-year-old daughter and 2 boys who are both 5 and 8. So I joined the program not with babes in arms. I was already well into a career that I didn't really like. I was just kind of sitting there going, okay, is this really all there is? I had just turned 40. And I'm like, okay, I'm, running myself ragged, taking care of these kids and going to a job full time that it wasn't feeding my soul. So it actually hit me at the right time. I went to a similar workshop, just like we're doing right now in June last year. And actually just started a new position, which I don't know if I would have gotten had it not been for this program, or I guess the parameters wouldn't have been what I had decided for myself. So really, what this program's really taught me is I have control over my life. I've kind of just been floating like, oh, well, let's do an arts degree. So I'm a little bit different from a lot of you. I don't have an engineering degree. I just have an arts degree. So I've been in nonprofit my entire life.
Not just. All degrees are needed and valuable in the world.
Totally.
So.
That's so true. But it's a little different. I'm not the very scheduled, very organized like a lot of you, which is great. I've learned a lot from you ladies actually, because I'm not exactly organized. But what really this showed me is I can make a choice. Like, there's always a choice. It was always like I was floating from job to job. I wasn't really intentional in any of those decisions that I've made. I wanted to have kids. Yes, I had kids. Did I still want a career? Could I have both? I was still completely on the fence. And like, I'm only in a career because we need the money. I'm not in a career that's really feeding my soul and giving me what I need every day. I didn't even think it was a possibility. I'm like, okay, I'll just have to work a job because that's what I need to do. So, and then this came along at the perfect time because I went through the same workshop and did a vision exercise. I'd never really thought past what's for dinner tonight. That even stressed me out. So I'm like, how can I think about 25 years in the future? I don't know what my life is going to look like. And of course you never know, but putting a plan in place and actually looking at the next 25 years and thinking, what do I want in place for my kids? What do I want my retirement to look like? I never thought of those things. I was just kind of blowing which way the wind took me. And it was just sort of well, whatever, I'll figure it out. But now I'm like, it was more stressful living like that than it is actually putting a plan in place and going, you know what, I have a vision for my rich life. I have a vision for what my kids, where do I want to take my kids? Where do I want to go on vacation? What do I want out of life that I never really thought to think about before? So that's my little intro.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz. And you sent me a beautiful text message a few weeks ago that almost made me cry, but you said, this program has improved my life 1,000-fold. And thank you so much. And you put a couple of details there as well. And I remember where you were a year ago. I mean, it was even when we were thinking about, can I afford this program? You have 3 kids, that's a lot to think about, right? And so financially, we worked through, your mindset was in a different place. And I've seen now, especially in the last few months, and when you were also going through your job change and the mindset of that's a difficult place to be, but you always came back to, no, I have a choice regarding my mindset and regarding the action. So can you tell us more about the contrast of where you were and where you were when you were making the decision, like, can we afford this program and how are we going to pay for it, versus you made the decision, I realized it's going to be more expensive not to do the program than to actually part with my money and solve the problems that I'm facing. So walk us through that and where your mindset was a year ago.
Sure. Yeah. So my parents both grew up in poverty. I was sort of, I grew up learning about scarcity mindset. They were survivors. So were my grandparents. And it was always like, if you have money, you're holding on to it. Like if you don't let it go, don't put it into, future planning, because you never know what's going to happen. They were always that sort of, they had that alarmist sort of mindset. It's like, oh my gosh, you can't let go of your money. So when I thought about the program, I said, okay, and Kenia really laid out to me what the value would be coming back into my life. It's sort of like, okay, maybe I could do this, but maybe that money could be better spent somewhere else. And we had this great discussion right at the beginning of like me signing up for the program. Do I want to keep living my life in the but, or do I want to just, say, hey, this is what I want to do. And I've never invested in myself like this ever in my life. So it was just like, it was a hard sell, but also not, because this is what I wanted to do. Something inside me was like, you need to do this. You need to do this. Like, you just need to have the confidence to invest in yourself and see what changes I can actually bring to my life and to my kids and to my husband and to my relationship. I was just talking to my husband yesterday. He's like, I'm like, well, what's changed like over the past almost year? It's like your confidence. Like, I never had that before. I was always too shy to ask for a raise, or too shy to, I really want flexible hours, because being there for my kids is important to me. So kind of having that balance of, you can have a career and your kids are going to be fine. You know, like, it's not like, oh, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. It was like, oh, it's too bad you have to work, Liz. I'm like, I want to work. Like, I actually love working. I love my job. I love my coworkers. So it was definitely a significant investment. And I think just looking at how far I've come over the past year now, I guess it's been a year since I first learned of the program. It's definitely been invaluable in my life because it's completely done in 180 with that mindset of abundance mindset, and not necessarily looking at, oh my gosh, what are the deficits in my life? It's more so looking at what are the positives and what can I build upon and what can I keep going that's great in my life, and what do I have to where's the boundaries I need to set to kind of cut out the life sucking, what's kind of not adding to my life. So yeah, just giving myself permission, I think, Kenya, was a big thing that you did. So giving yourself permission to ask for help, giving yourself permission to, spend, making a significant investment in your own well-being. Like, I never thought, like, oh, you don't need, I don't know. So it's completely changed my mindset around that. And it's especially around money and finances with households. It's crunch time now. Like, it's gotten way worse for people that I know. But it's just that abundance mindset. It's like, you're always able to make more money. How do you take your time and make the best of those profit producing activities? I don't know if you talked about that yet, Kenya, but how do you make the best use of your time, and how do you make money? And you're always going to be able to make money. It's not like, oh my gosh, I have to hold on to this money because this is all I'm ever going to make. I've kind of let that one go.
Yeah, actually, thank you for mentioning that, because the earning potential and what you're going to earn over a lifetime is millions. And where our family is actually making a pretty bold financial move. We'll see if in 2 months it works out the way we wanted it to. It's been in our plan for a couple of years, but it will completely change your financial picture if the moves go through. And we put this wealth plan together with the advisor that's going to talk to us on Thursday. And when I look at what I thought was possible and what we're actually building, it is millions of dollars of a difference, like literally millions. And I think I'll be able, in just a second, I'll segue to Kathleen. I think maybe we'll talk about it a little bit on Thursday too, but you made huge shifts in terms of wealth building in your plan, and you made leaps and bounds. Liz, I will ask you the question. Some people are getting to know me maybe for the first time, right? They've watched a workshop with me, but there's probably definitely a trust issue. Like, who is this woman? Is she qualified? Is she okay to enter my brain? Can I trust her? What made you decide that actually me guiding the program and then the women in the community, it was worth it was worth signing up and spending your money on somebody that maybe was a complete stranger to you a couple of weeks ago?
Sure, yes, and you and the group. I think I always had a hard time being vulnerable and putting myself out there, but I think, Kenya, you really brought that out in me and saying, you know what, you're having a hard time. It's okay to have a hard time. Then how do you sort of steer that energy into something productive and not like, oh my gosh, like, and I've gone through so many ups and downs, of course, because I was unemployed for 4 months, and it's really, rejection is not something that I handled well at all. So, and you really helped me through with that too, and just really putting that vulnerability on the table and knowing that it's going to be returned. So I think, Kenya, especially with that first conversation that we had, the one-on-one, I was like, still pretty guarded and still pretty like, oh, I don't know if this is good. Like, I gave myself every excuse in the world to not do it. But then she's like, what if you just give yourself permission to do it and sort of take that leap? And I was terrified to do that. but now I'm like, you know what? Courage takes vulnerability. And with this group of women, that's what you get back. The more you give, the more you get back, for sure, 1,000-fold. And I think, Kenya, you've been a very good sort of, you're vulnerable and you're willing to share, like, oh, I'm having a rough time, or I'm having a great time. Like, we share the wins and we share the tough times too. And it's been definitely like so supportive. It just feels like, oh, you're going through the exact same thing. And then we laugh about it, or we cry about it, or it's like, oh my gosh, like, so it was tough for me to kind of dip my toe in the water. But now I'm like, well, I can't go back to being a guarded, like, it depends on who you're with, of course. But with this program, I just know that that vulnerability, that space is going to be held for me, and that everybody is sort of maybe in the same boat or has been in that same boat, and figuring out, it's a safe space for you to, explore like what's going on. And then she'll be, hey, this is enough like victimhood or sob story. Let's try and figure out what we're going to do next. And I really needed that too, like the kicks in the butt too sometimes, which I really needed, it was tough to go through, but I always had, this community and you, Kenya, to be very much like, okay, how do we turn this into a positive, or how do we figure this out? You're never on your own trying to make those big decisions, or you're having something really tough that you're going through. It's been amazing, this really supportive community for sure. So
thank you for being so real and so authentic. It's true. I mean, I bring some loving firmness, right? And we have a tendency, including me, sometimes to get into this victim mindset. And I'm just so proud of how you, when we had our session, when you were job hunting, and I said, okay, like this is what needs to happen for success to happen. And no is part of the equation. As an entrepreneur, I negotiate my salary many times with every single client I have in a way, right? So I get no's, you get rejection. And when you accept that it's part of the game, you just move forward because you have to do that. It's same thing as training for a sport. The people who get the most goals are the people who missed the most goals, right? So I thank you so much, Liz. I hope that anybody who's hesitating, I really try to make this the easiest application process. I mean, you lose nothing by applying, get a chance to talk to me, and then we'll see over 50% of people here get the tuition fully funded by their combination of employer and grant. It just can take a little bit of time, which is why I'm asking to fill out that application. And if you do it, you'll get access to our wealth building session. And yes, we're trying to get you to just open your mind step by step. I'm not saying the application commits you, but it forces you to reflect on yourself, which many of you find extremely valuable. So apply by Wednesday, and you can get those bonuses that we mentioned in our materials, right? So I will go to Kathleen. Thank you so much, Liz, for sharing. If there's anything else that I didn't ask, or if you want to write some very specific impacts in the chat that we didn't bring up, or what would you say to anyone who's on the fence in the chat and wondering if they should even talk to me or fill out the application, then what would you tell them? Kathleen, let's go over to you. Thank you so much for showing up today. Is Mr. Boss Charlie giving us permission to proceed? I don't know if you're muted.
Yes, we are. We're all good to go.
Okay.
And what was the question, Kenya, you wanted me to, or just?
Let's start with an intro. I think many of you have heard from Kathleen from one of our sessions, but you joined the program when you were pregnant, which is it's a significant leap of faith, right? And we were talking when's the best time for you, and so tell us about yourself and your family and what you do, and then we'll get into some. I think we'll probably talk a bit about the money month and the program and how and about that. So let's start with the intro.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Kathleen, and I have a almost 7-month-old baby named Charlie, and he is, we're actually in Calgary right now hanging out with my parents, so he's hanging out with my mom right now, which is awesome. So I joined the program in September of last year, and my due date was November, so I had a couple months where I was doing both things, finishing things up at work, and trying to get things ready for the baby, also working on my MoMBA stuff. And at first it was very overwhelming to have both of those things happening at the same time. But I have just really felt connected to Kenya and trusted her to help guide me through all of that. And we talked a lot about maternity leave in particular and how to prepare for a maternity leave. So that was a nice kind of, I guess, customization piece where I started to have my mindset as we were working through the program, but also very much in line with where my head was at, which is how do I prepare for my maternity leave? And I found that was a really valuable exercise, especially now when I'm reflecting back, to start to think, what are my values? What do I want from my life? And at first I was like, well, why am I going to do this now when I don't know how things are going to change once I have my baby? But I think that's been one of the coolest parts about all of this, was to be able to look at who I was and have taken the time to be, okay, this is Kathleen pre-baby, and where's Kathleen now? And it's been pretty cool to see the changes, but also the things that have stayed the same. And this program has really helped me to maintain my sense of self while becoming a mother. And that is worth so much to me. I was very nervous to go on maternity leave and very excited to have a baby, but scared about what that would look like. And I was concerned about losing myself, but that hasn't happened at all. I've been just welcomed into this community and been able to really embrace matrescence and the changes that are happening with myself and my mindset, while knowing what I want out of life as we're starting our life with a very tiny little human. And it's been very cool to have that. It's interesting as well to go into all of the weekly calls, and we do discuss things like illness, for example, and childcare and daycare and things. And that's not where I'm at right now, as I'm at home with my little guy, but it's good to think about, okay, what are we going to do when we start our daycare transition? How do we plan this? So even those little nuggets of information that I've been able to glean from the other members of the community are so valuable. And I know I won't remember everything, but to have this group of women to be able to reach back out and say, hey, I think somebody mentioned this. What was that? When time comes, and just having that unwavering support has been very, very valuable throughout this transition time. And also knowing that I want to go back to work. Some of the other moms groups that I've been a part of, some of the women don't want to return to work, and there is just different levels of conversation that you're having. So it's really great to have this group of like-minded women who have the kiddos, have their work, and they're very successful in both of those worlds and want to have both. So I'm happy to be a part of that and figuring out my own way.
Thank you, Kathleen, for the introduction. What I do want to cover is the financial return on investment. I want to be transparent. I cannot guarantee any outcome for anyone. However, with the amount of testimonials we have and people returning into the program for a second, third, even fourth year, is one of my big goals is to help everybody advance from a financial perspective. And that takes a few forms. Number one, we have an amazing wealth building partner that comes and educates us. About 4 weeks to 6 weeks, plus even bonus months throughout the year. So just the sheer fact that we're coming together to discuss finances, and we have a step-by-step process for what you need to gather to get started, just that spurs many moms into action for something they've been just kicking down the road. I don't want to talk about it, or I don't have the time. That forces you to think about it. And that is the first step. Number two, for those who are willing and able, many of them take very specific action on their wealth plan with our wealth planner. And that takes putting together your documents and defining a very holistic wealth strategy. And I can say without a doubt, and even seeing the impact on our finances, again, I hope that in a few months I'll be able to share, because it's like a pivotal point for our family. But truly, it can make a difference in the millions. And Kathleen is nodding, you've seen your models and your projections, is when you take action and you have accountability and you actually do it, that's a huge part of doing things. And often it's not about making more money. It's actually about restructuring how you have your existing assets and actually doing something. Before I started the work with a wealth planner, I had my previous pensions from other employers. I had it all disparate. I didn't have a big picture. Now we brought everything together. And, we have step-by-steps. When this happens, we're going to do this. And it's night and day. Absolutely. So just taking the action is humongous. And my hope is that if you know where you're going and you take action on your money, you will make your investment back multiple times, right? One person in the program had a $1 million expectation for her wealth. Now they're going towards 6 million, right? By just restructuring how they're approaching everything. So Kathleen, and so that's one part, right? And then the other part where we work on building wealth is in the personal branding and in the career skills and career planning. A lot of moms in this program have been promoted during or right out of maternity leave, and they become magnets for opportunities because they just speak up more. They're more confident. They're more confident negotiating and asking for promotions. So there's the compounding effect of that advancement that happens, right? When you actually take the action and you have somebody to guide you and you break it down into step-by-step pieces. So with just these two pieces of the program and having your 25-year vision, I have an extremely high level of confidence that people who take the action and pay attention will actually see this investment in the MoMBA as a blip on their finances. And they'll be like, how did I ever doubt that this would, be a good investment? So Kathleen, can you talk about that? You've had a huge shift in your mindset. You've taken a very aggressive action on your wealth plan, and it's amazing to watch. I love it. Not everybody, by the way, here works with a wealth planner. Some people do their finances privately and they still contribute to the conversation and grow because they have also this accountability in this group to push them faster. So tell us about the potential for wealth growth and being a community like this and doing what you did.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Just taking the leap to go work with the financial planner at first, that was kind of like I don't know if we should do this, but we had been working with different financial planners for many years, and I just knew my money wasn't working the way I wanted it to. So that was one of my number one pieces coming into the program, was wanting to work on my finances. And I didn't know what that was going to look like coming into the program. I just knew that I wanted my money to work more for me. So we made the leap to go work with the partner financial advisor. And I think that was easy for us to make that transition because we'd been talking about it for so long, and we were looking for the right person to move our funds over to. And after having a couple of the sessions and hearing about the just the outlook that the wealth building group had, I felt very confident and comfortable with them, that they were in line with my values. So we transitioned our money over, so all this happened during money month, which was in kind of October, November, and December, I guess, which is also the time that I had my little guy, Charlie. So we were doing all of this while I was a new mom, like figuring out all my breastfeeding and just life as a parent, and quite sleep deprived. But the kindness that the partner extended to us, and just not pushy and very hey, talk to us when you have the time, or they that also made us very comfortable with them, because they met us where we were at that point in time. And they have been really focusing on helping us build our wealth. So not just stocks, it's also talking about things like pre-construction opportunities, and they're wanting to help us build our rich life that we've envisioned for ourselves. So they're keeping us very accountable for the goals that we set out, and they are proposing alternative ways to actually reach those goals, which I've never even heard of some of these options, or heard of them, like a HELOC, for example, the home equity line of credit, but never knew how we could actually be applying that into our own lives. So the education piece has also been really big for me. I was always scared to talk about money because I didn't understand it. And I always defaulted to the experts that we had been working with before. And I've since found out that they were doing their job, but not exactly what I thought they should have been doing for us. And now working with this partner, they've been able to tell us, okay, here's what we're actually doing. This is why we're doing things. And I feel very empowered to ask questions and to learn and be able to bring things up and just say, hey, can we stop for a second? And can you explain this to me? And I feel very much more confident in my just financial literacy. And that's been kind of helped me to shift my mindset into more of an abundance mindset, because I understand things a bit better than I did before. I wasn't thinking about mindset when I started doing the financial part of the program. I didn't think that was necessary, but it turns out it's very, very necessary to have a mindset shift. And I know Brittany mentioned sometimes she's still in scarcity mindset, and I'm definitely in that as well. But I am leaning more into abundance, especially being on mat leave and looking at what we've planned to do while we are on a lower income than usual, but we're just shifting where we're putting our money and being more intentional about how we're spending our money, what we want to do with things, and what's going to help us improve our quality of life. And because we have our values, we know what we want, it's easy to put the money where we see the most return for ourselves. And that might not be where others put their money, but that's where we're choosing to put our funds. So it's been just the mindset shift has been very beneficial for myself and for my partner. And we used to have a lot of discussions about money, and now we both have had mindset shifts and we're on the same page a bit more. So that's also reduced some stress within our relationship. And we I put in the chat, but I'm also signed up for year 2 of the program, and I will be asking my employer to help fund this. They did fund my year 1, but I am also very prepared to pay for self-fund the program as well. And it was funny talking to my partner about it. I was like, how do you feel about this? And he's like, oh, do it. This is amazing. Why are we talking about this? This is great. He's like, you're so confident. This has helped us understand our finances better, work with a partner, like it's a no-brainer, like we should be investing in this. And I've said this so many times, but just to have my sense of self and to be able to fully lean into motherhood is worth a lot. And I'm so happy that that's been my experience with the community.
So Kathleen, I'll put myself out there. I'll be very vulnerable. Is it a fair assertion that the compound effect of mindset, of taking the action, of showing up for your health, your relationships, defining what career-life balance looks like for you, having that 25-year vision, not feeling alone and depressed by yourself, but actually, every day taking at least a little step. Is it fair to say that it can have a compounding effect of millions over a lifetime?
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Like that, yeah, millions. And even just like my thoughts on money before, I was like, oh, kind of the $1 million is what I was thinking. And now like my husband and I are having conversations of multiple millions of dollars, and just seeing the return on investment with our investments has been amazing. And both of us are just like flabbergasted at how well that our money is working for us and doing exactly what we wanted. It's working, but we're working with the right people who are helping to put those funds where they need to. And that's a big piece of outsourcing for us that I still don't have the confidence to do that myself. But now I know how to ask the right questions to get that support. And so that's saving us, even just on that investment piece alone, saving us thousands of dollars just right there that we used to be kind of wasting in fees with the other broker that we were working with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to be an investigative journalist. We've been working with our wealth partner for pretty much since the beginning of the program a few years ago. And what's great is that they spend time with us and they get to know us as moms. I don't know if there's another practice in Canada that actually has now this deep knowledge of our challenges. The financial industry is designed by men and for men, benchmarking their risk tolerance, benchmarking their career arcs and their lifespans. And so it makes no sense for us to have a financial strategy that's aligned just with the masculine model, right? So that's been, it's a partner we've vetted for a long time. I've also built a close relationship with them. And so I'm really glad that they're continued supporters and partners of the program. Kathleen, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing about that. It was just when we're doing our financial plan, like talking about maternity leave, and we do want to try to have another child, and they were very like, okay, that easy peasy, we'll put this in. And it was just kind of no questions. And the way they talk about our plan, I don't feel like I have to explain things. Like, it's just like, they're very understanding about what it's like being a mom and what it's like being on maternity leave as well. And that's been nice too, to not have to kind of like justify our decisions or anything as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll have one last question for you, and then I'll see maybe Kirsten, if you're available to jump on camera, or Sarah, I don't know how it is. Let me know. Just let me know in the chat if I could ask you a couple of questions. Kathleen, if everybody is on the fence about filling out the application form that takes 20 minutes, that is a no commitment form. It's you fill it out, and that gives us an opportunity to see where your mindset's at. And if there's an opportunity to talk, what would you tell somebody who's on the fence about considering this opportunity to possibly join the next cohort?
I would say just go for it. If you're looking for a sign, just lean in, give it a go, have a conversation, and see what Kenya has to say. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the conversation. I have so much trust in Kenya, and just the way, like when we were first initially started talking, it was a rough time for me with my pregnancy, and my grandfather had just passed away, and the kindness that Kenya extended to me at that point in time of seeing me where I was at, I felt very seen, and even like, and no pressure at all. Like, we kind of talked about that now was the right time to even have those conversations with what was going on in my family, and just knowing that I had that space to make the decision myself, I felt very confident. So have the conversation. I think it's a fantastic group of women. It's a fantastic community to be a part of. And I feel very passionate about this group because it's helped me so much, and helped me to make decisions so much faster for my health and my mental health, and just see where it goes. Kind of, I know it's hard sometimes to trust, but just open up your heart a little bit. And the group is very understanding and kind. And I think Liz said too, the vulnerability is returned as well in the group. So we'd love to have you.
Thank you. And what our call would look like essentially, I mean, some of you have talked to me. I don't want to put you too much on the spot, but if you're able to even write down in the chat, how did you feel when we talked? What I'll bring forward is essentially 3 tools. Number 1, we'll look at 4 core priorities to give you some clarity. So you'll have a roadmap of your 4 key pillars. If you should join the program, that's what we would really focus on for you. Even if you end up not joining the program, at least you'll have that and really identify those pieces. It takes a third party often, and I still hire people to give me accountability and support because I can get trapped in my own brain, right? Then we'll look at your current state and your future state and your potential return on investment. Like, what is the cost of doing nothing versus what could be the potential return on investment for you? And if your partner is involved in the decision, that can help you as well, right? And I will ask you in your own words, why are you excited? Where do you see the value in the program? Where could this program take you, right? Should we apply for funding with your employer? So I want to support your decision making, and I only want to work with people who actually feel like it's a fit. I don't want to coerce anyone in the program. That's not the point. So I hope that gives you the reassurance. And before we go to Kirsten, I wanted to, if you can please give love to Laiba and your emojis in chat. I could not have done this without her. She's been with me for almost 7 weeks, and she's done such an amazing job. All the graphics, like the workbooks, the back setup, the setup. And I will even say she agreed to do some weekend work when I asked her if she was okay with it. Like, we discussed if it was fine for her at this stage, but truly she's been amazingly dedicated. Just 7 weeks, I'm like, is knocking it out of the park. So thank you for your love for the moms and for changing things for moms in Canada and North America. So Kirsten, over to you. Tell us about your experience in the program and why you're deciding to stick around for as long as you have.
Sure. I'll just do a quick introduction. So I have 2 little boys, one 3.5, the other one is 16 months. And I joined the program for the first time just as I was preparing to return back to work. I think I joined in November and I went back to work in January. So yes, why am I sticking around? So I guess when I first was preparing to go back for work, I was thinking I was just going back to my normal job. And then like I said, I joined in November, and in December, I got a text from a friend saying like, hey, there's this manager role that I think you'd be really good at. You should apply. And I was like hemming and hawing. I'm like, I don't know, should I? I don't know. I'm just coming back from mat leave. I don't know about this. Can I balance it all? And then I had the support of Kenya and the rest of the ladies to say like, no, of course you should. Like, here's 1,000 things you can do to support yourself. And all the mindset work, and they walked me through it. And then so I applied and I got the job. So I was one of those people that Kenya is talking about, where it's like, I joined the program, I get a promotion. Like that's what happened. And then so I got through year 1, and then I realized that there's so much content and so many things to learn in the course that I could not do it all in 1 year. So then I had to join for year 2. And I put in the chat, I was actually unsure, like, do I want to continue with this specific program, or is there something that I want to focus on elsewhere? Because Kenya introduces us through guest speakers to all sorts of different coaches and different things and programs. So I looked through a lot of those, but they were literally double or triple the cost. Like, I'm talking like 30,000, like, I don't know, for 50,000 in some cases. Like, they were way more than I could ever afford it. And by the way, that's not double the cost of the MoMBA, but they were very expensive, and like, not with weekly calls, not with one-on-one. So anyways, it made the decision really easy to have, and like, just being closer to, like, within even the same country is so nice, having that support locally. And then for year 3, I guess I couldn't say no again, because every time I keep thinking like, oh, maybe I'm done this program, then Kenya's like, well, now we're going to talk about this. Like, in year 3, we've been focusing on spirituality, and I'm like, who needs spirituality? And then I'm like, wait a second. I do the little life chart, and my spirituality one is at 0. Okay, maybe I need to think about this. So that's how I'm here.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. So I love Kirsten's example because you shopped around, and yes, it is a multi-$1,000 investment. And for those who have talked with me, I think once we see the value for you, I've seen how much do you want to do the program? I've heard 12 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, or is this valuable to me? Yes, it is an investment, but it's an investment that is structured to give you a return, right? And not just be a sunk cost that you get nothing out of. So Kirsten has done her comparison. She has done her shopping. It's true. I bring people into the program, and tomorrow you get a chance to experience our tapping expert, Yolanda. What is tapping? It's a science-proving technique to reduce your cortisol levels, to give you clarity in your decision-making, to bring you calm, to reduce overwhelm. Thank you so much, Kathleen. I really appreciate that you joined us, and hugs to Charlie, seeing you in the chat. So you shopped around and you compared, and you wrote that there's nothing that compares, right, to the value that you can get out of this program. It's true. I try to, although it's a few $1,000s, I want to keep the investment accessible to moms as much as possible, and explore funding options for you, right? So some people get the program funded right out of the gate, like with their employers, if it's the right timing, and some people pay out of pocket, and there are advantages to both. Of course, it's nice not to have to pay out of pocket, but when you pay out of pocket, you show up, you really show up. And Kirsten, you've had a combination of both, where when it's your money on the line, you've got skin in the game, and you just make sure you show up. And I found the more a program costs, typically, the more I'm committed to showing up. Anything that you would like to say to people who are on the fence about applying, considering the program, thinking whether it's worth talking to me?
Yeah, I did also write this down, but hi, Liz. Like, there's not a lot of things we can control in our lives. And even as parents, I've learned that more than ever, like, you can't control when they're sick, and you can't control even what your birth is like necessarily, and you can't control so many things. But this is something that you can control. Like, you can make the choice to do something different if what's happening right now is not making you happy. So, like, my encouragement about, if you're on the fence, is just to really sit down and think about, like, do you want to stay on the fence? Do you want to be unsure and kind of not really like, oh, I'm kind of happy, but maybe I could be better? Or do you want to actually just have the conversation? So when I talked to you, Kenya, like, we did the visualization together, you talked to me about, actually, this is where we first, I think, talked about the ripple, and like, how could I create a ripple in my career? And I was kind of like, oh, I don't even know if engineering is really for me. And I just, like, after that one conversation, I already felt so much more confident. And then it's like, okay, well, how much more can we do in a year? Probably a lot more than what we can do in an hour. So yeah, so I would just say, just really, if you want to take control of things, like, choose to do this one call at least, and then see if there's more after that.
By the way, my calendar is pretty full this week. I opened up a couple of extra spots for those of you who want to talk, but I've got tons of calls booked. Kirsten, I think this will particularly resonate with one conversation I've had today about the intersection of, like, where are you going with your career and your future? You wrote something so beautiful in the workshop this week about knowing how your motherhood is connected to, like, your STEM career and where you are right now. How do you see your sense of purpose in what you're doing as a people leader, right? Because you've grown in leadership and direct reports, and as an engineer, as a mother, as a professional. That sentence you wrote in the chat this week about, what you do, and I think it was the Friday workshop, maybe, right? Can you tell us more about your sense of direction and purpose as an engineer? Even if you don't know exactly where we're going to be in 25 years, I sense that you've embraced your leadership and who you are and the ripple effect. So can you speak to that part?
Sure. Yeah.
Question, comment.
Yeah. So I work for a utility, and of course I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel as good as, like, being a helper, like a nurse or a doctor or like a school bus driver, where I can see the people that I'm helping. Like, it's very hard. It's still sometimes hard for me, but it was very hard for me to connect, like, what I do today to the people around me. But after our conversations, after we do a lot more reflection, because I'm not very good at reflection, I'm not very good at, like, journaling and stuff, but being in these forced sessions made me reflect more. And after a lot of reflection, I realized, like, everything that I'm doing today is contributing to being able to help people keep their lights on. It's helping people, like, especially now with this energy transition going on, there's a lot of concerns about affordability. Like, will people be able to afford to keep their lights going, to charge their cars? And moms, like, one of the best things for me as a working mom is having this hybrid thing to be able to work from home and from the office. So would I really want a world where we're having rolling brownouts and blackouts, where, homes aren't going to be powered because they're focused on industrial and corporate? I can answer Heather's question about the spirituality. No, it's not mandatory, and it's not really focused on in the first year of doing the work with the MoMBA. This is sort of like an advanced topic in year 3. So that's why I mentioned spirituality, but definitely not essential. And we have people of all sorts of beliefs and non-beliefs. And I actually don't even know if it really came up at all in year 1 and 2.
Not really.
Very rarely.
No, and I'll jump in since we're mentioning it. I was quite reluctant to bring it in from the start. It's not like a natural theme when you're planning your return to work or being a working mom. However, but it was just the natural end point of, let's say, year 1, we work so much on mindset. For those who continue working on year 2, we focus more on bringing back your feminine energy. I know that sounds maybe abstract to some of you, so I'm not going to bring it up today, but really, like in year 2, we reclaim who we are. And then in year 3, we talk, I mean, like, we'll talk about life after death and leaving a legacy for our kids. I had 3 family members die in a very short period of time. And many of us face a family member with sickness. So that brings up like bigger life purpose questions. But no, it's not a component of year 1. Unless you really insist and ask me questions, it's typically not part of the absolutely. I know so I'm not going to bring it up today. It's actually something that people in the program asked for that I didn't really bring up as a theme, but I kept on getting in the questionnaire because we had a summit, and women realized that like being in a very male dominated field, they wanted to leverage more who they are. But it's not a huge part of year 1. But year 1 is very much like logic and mindset. And that's what people feel at home with: planning, checklists, spreadsheets, so, and why it attracted so many engineers. Kirsten, can you speak to that? And
I just wanted to say, like year 1 is very tactical. Like year 1 is like, here are the tools, here's what you can do. Like, let's look at your 25-year vision. Let's look at your values. Let's look at this, like fill out this workbook, do this plan. But then the funny part is that as you do that work, you start to realize, like, wait a second, as I'm doing this, like, I'm so masculine, like I'm so masculine in what I do, right? Like that feminine side is really the balance that I need to kind of find this like comfort in life. And then as you're doing that, you're like, but wait a second, my 25-year vision, like what happens in 50 years when I pass away, and like my kids, what am I leaving behind for them? Like what legacy am I leaving in my career? And so then you start to get into this, like what we're calling spirituality discussion, but it can be spirituality in many ways. Like it could be Buddhism, it could be Christianity, it could be non-religious atheism, whatever. But it's like, what happens when we die? Does anything even happen when we die? Do we even know? But like, what do I want my life to do for me in advance and in preparation of my death? So I think that's how like this arc goes, right? Like we start really tactical and we do all these things, and then we're like, wait a second, we're not really balanced in our approach. We need more feminine because we're so male dominated. Okay, wait, but now that we've done all that, like what actually is going to happen with my legacy? And so that's how it kind of went.
It's a very natural arc. The questions come and pose themselves naturally, because when you ask those bigger questions, it really makes you think, what am I building for the next generation? And that often is after I pass away, what memories am I leaving behind? What infrastructure am I leaving behind? What do I want people to remember about me, right? So I hope that helps, Heather. Again, it's not a huge focus in year 1, but I can't promise you will not have those questions after you do the work. They might just surface for you, and you might all of a sudden be like, I'm not cringing about that, I have questions. So Heather, can you give us a thumbs up if that helped and answered your concerns? I hope so. Anyway, I'll watch for the chat. This is obviously a great opportunity to ask your questions. I know we are at the top of the hour. I don't think I'm going to go, as I said, through the step-by-step parts of the program. You can watch the Saturday recording for that. I had a few people join and said that it was really helpful. So I'll show you, everybody in this program, honestly, Kirsten, if you can nod your head, I mean, like 90% of the participants are STEM PhDs. They're very grounded people. So that's what it speaks to, at least in the first part of the program. So you can watch the logic. Well, you're going to discover a lot of interesting things about yourself if you decide to talk to me and consider the program. But yes, the Saturday session, I recorded a video that walks you exactly exactly through the logical step-by-step project management pieces. So what does your roadmap look like? What does the values game look like? What's the 25-year spreadsheet of planning your life with your partner, if you have a partner, and your career, your kids' ages, elderly parents, risk management, how do you want to feel, what your finances will look like, right? So in the Saturday video, I address particularly like, how will you experience the program? How does it fit into your day-to-day life? We're past the hour. I see a couple of you are still here. So I think I will say thank you so much, Kirsten, for showing up and chiming in. I really appreciate your time. And Sarah, if I know you're on a walk, but if you have any last comments about how the value the program brought to you, and whether people who are very grounded, STEM, skeptical can benefit from this community, and whether it's very grounded and logical, or is it airy fairy and fluffy, or and you're an engineer, right?
Yeah.
With your kids.
Yeah, sorry, I'm out for a walk, so it may be a little background noise, but yeah, I resonate with Heather's comments. I'm definitely very logical, and I'm a mechanical engineer by training, and my career for the past five-ish years has been to implement systems and make them more efficient and like extremely logical. And so I guess when I started, I did see this arc Kenya is talking about, where suddenly you're like, well, maybe I need some of this feminine side of things to bring that into my work. It's very, very logical, detail oriented, but when I bring in like the people side and really connect with people as I'm making change, I found huge benefit to my work. So definitely it's uncomfortable and weird, I'll say at first, to talk about feminine and masculine and stuff, but there is a natural progression as we go. Sorry, Kenya, I don't know what your question was. I don't think I answered it.
No, you did. I mean, you did. Is it airy fairy, fluffy, or logical, right? And I think we bring mostly a logical approach, but we bring a variety of perspectives. It's a very holistic program, right? So last question I will say, as I asked to anyone else, if anybody else is on the fence about talking to me about clicking apply on the program, which again does not commit you to the program, it just opens up the discussion. What would you tell people? You had a decision 3 years ago and you're sticking around still. So, you remember your mindset. What would you tell people who are listening today?
I would tell people just to take a leap of faith and give it a try. There's no harm in exploring new things and new ideas, and a call with Kenya will just be a wonderful discussion, and I can see if you need any further support than that. So definitely just take a leap of faith. It is a leap. I know. I remember I thought long and hard about the decision to join the program, and yeah, I have no regrets. I'm very grateful I found this program and this community.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, even if they walk away, we look at this page from the roadmap, the first 4 core goals, and the cost of action versus an action and future state. How can that open somebody's mind, and how can it bring more clarity to actually document that and have that laid out for you by a third party?
Yeah, it's huge to just get some of your thoughts out onto paper. I know when I was my first workshop I attended, we talked and kind of outlined my goals, and I decided not to join that program at that time. And I'm like, I'm gonna do this on my own, and I'm gonna, achieve all these things. And then I did end up joining the program a few months later because I found I really needed that support and accountability. But getting things out on paper never hurts, right? It's I think there's a lot of stats about how written goals are more likely to be achieved.
I don't have enough words, I think from my heart, say how grateful. I mean, the turnout has been lovely today. You never know if people are going to consider the program, but I'd say that quite a few of you are considering. So if you signed up, you should have received a bunch of emails from us in the last few days, sending you FAQs, the application link. I guess we can repost it in the Facebook group for those of you like who didn't, just for whatever reason, didn't get into the system, but my calendar is open. Actually, I'll do that right now. So here are the program FAQs. Right here. This page has sometimes been slow to load, so it may or may not work. We're trying to fix that right now. And then the application link is tiny URL, MoMBA, apply. And again, if you apply by Wednesday, if you decide to enroll in the program, you're going to get 2 bonus months. You might be eligible for a bursary, especially if you can't get some grant funding, then there's a bursary that we offer in this enrollment cycle. And finally, you will get to access our closed door wealth building session with our wealth strategist. And she's going to talk about 3 out of the box wealth planning strategies that are working for moms in 2023. So we've hinted at a few of those, but you'll get a sense of what kind of partners we have. And tomorrow we have our EFT expert who's coming in. For those of you who are skeptical, she used to work at one of the world's largest banks. This is a research-backed method that allows to reduce your cortisol by 42% when you tap and makes clear decisions. And a fair number of engineers in the program have decided to work one-on-one to really like manage the stress. So you'll get a sense. She has a wonderful energy. We've had, more than 100 experts come and speak in the MoMBA and Pros and Babes community. People who have worked with the Navy SEALs, you don't get more rational and military than that. Emotional intelligence experts, people who have, been invited to present to Facebook, people from all over the world, from Great Britain, from the United States. So as I said, I'm not an expert on everything. I bring in the experts on where I'm not an expert. We have an epigenetics expert who talks to us about women and health in a way that truly you will not get this type of holistic information anywhere about your hormones, your sleep, aging, nutrition, sexual health, pelvic health, anxiety, all of that. We have functional medicine practitioners that have come to talk to us about people who are really stuck in the medical system that can break through health problems. And these are people who have been medically trained and now have decided to specialize more in women's health and hormones and preventative health. What else do we have? So many experts that are already in the portal for you. So you're not just relying on me, you're really getting some of the best of the best of the best. And I will tell you, if you had to pay separately for all of these experts, it would account to a lot more than what the MoMBA costs. So there you go. That's it. Thank you so much for sticking around for longer. Feel free to connect with me. Truly. And I myself have invested a lot to be able to work with these people and test them and vet them. But there you go. Thank you for your time. I hope I will see a few of you or many of you at tomorrow's session. Wednesday, we're having another case studies from Betty. We'll talk about her mindset shift. And then Thursday, the closed door session. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thanks again. Thanks, Kirsten, Sarah, and everybody. And I see Andrea, Jen, Heather, Patricia are still here, and Laiba for your great work. I hope I didn't miss any names, but see you next time. Bye.